Now then, imagine spending nearly 30 years on death row for a crime you didn't commit. Well, that nightmare was Anthony Ray Hinton's reality. Wrongfully convicted over the murders of two people back in 1985. Justice was finally delivered in 2015 when the American Supreme Court overturned his conviction on appeal. And since then, Mr Hinton has written his memoir, The Sun Does Shine, How I Found Life on Death Row. Well, I spoke to him earlier this afternoon from Birmingham, Alabama, and started by asking him how he could have been convicted on such unreliable evidence.
In America, if you don't have the money to hire a decent defense, you will be convicted in America with no doubt. And so it don't help to be born African American in Alabama along with not having the funds to hire a decent attorney. And so the prosecution knew that he could get a conviction because of those two things, being born black and not having the funds to hire a qualified attorney. And there was no evidence to convict me, just the fact that I had a state-appointed attorney who did just enough to get me convicted, and I spent the next 30 years on Alabama death row for a crime that the state of Alabama knew that I didn't commit.
And Ray, just outline for us how little evidence there was. The fact that you were working 15 miles away with a very solid alibi, 15 miles away from the scene of the crime. The forensic and ballistic evidence didn't prove anything whatsoever. Just talk us through those details.
Well, you know, I was cutting grass in the backyard, and these two detectives showed up and said they had a warrant for my arrest. And I asked them for what, and they wouldn't tell me at the time. But skipping forward, they asked me, did I own a firearm? And I said, no, I do not. I said, but my mother have an old Smith & Wesson 38, and they went back and asked my mother to let them see it. One of the detectives, she said there was nothing but dust on it. The gun hadn't been fired in over 25 years. They took this gun and said that it matched the bullets that they got out of the deceased body. I knew that was a lie because that gun, as I said, hadn't been fired in over 25 years. Then they charged me later with capital murder. They got on the stand and said that the bullets match, as I said, the victim. And so I was sentenced to death for a crime they knew that I didn't commit. They knew that the gun didn't match. And it took EJI, Brian Stevenson, over 16 years to prove my innocence.
Wasn't it the case that when you were arrested, a white officer said, well, I believe you are innocent, but you're going to go to jail anyway?
Yep. Yes, we was in the car, and he said, there's 5 things that are going to convict you. And I said, what are those? And he said, number 1, you're black. Number 2, a white man is going to say you shot him. Whether you shot him or not, I don't care. He said, believe me, I don't care. He said, number 3, you're going to have a white prosecutor. Number 4, you're going to have a white judge. And number 5, you're going to have an all-white jury. And he said, do you know what that spelled? And he repeated the word conviction 5 times. And so those are the things that actually convicted me. But while we was in the police station, I asked this detective, I said, detective, why are you doing this to me? I haven't killed anyone. And I was trying to convince this detective that you got the wrong person. And he looked at me and he said, let me be honest with you. I truly believe you didn't do it. He said, but y'all, and y'all was referring to all African Americans.
And Ray, I know you're a religious man. Let me ask you about forgiveness. Have you forgiven those that saw you convicted, were prepared to see you die on death row, and then those individuals that collaborated to keep you in prison, an innocent man, for 30 years?
Yes, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. I woke up one morning after hearing a grown man cry, and that had lost his mother. And I looked in the mirror and I didn't like the person that I had become. I have always been a person who loved to smile, laugh, and I love to make other people laugh and smile because I truly believe that laughter is good for the soul. And I sit there on this bed that was too small for me, and I asked the God that I believe in to remove this hatred that I had for these men that did this to me. And eventually, I began to smile again, to laugh again, and try to make other people laugh as well. And I realized that by forgiving them, I could truly live. And as you notice on my book, it's how I found life and freedom on death row. I could not do a thing about the 30 years or the falsely accused, but I knew that I could not allow these men to steal my joy any longer. I wanted to take my life back. And so by forgiving them, I truly believe that none of us will ever be free until you forgive. And I want your audience to know that forgiveness is not about the other person. Forgiveness is about you. And so I had no choice but to forgive them in order for me to live, in order for me to enjoy life, to enjoy it without even thinking about them. I had to forgive them, and I forgave them, and I just lived the best life that I could.